the process of breaking them down, what they call seasoning or whatever, was language. I'll tell you, in the plantation in America and the Caribbean, African languages were banned. And some people called speaking African languages were even hanged. We can do the same thing. I don't want to give a whole lecture, but you can do the same thing. You can see it in Native American kids. You can see it in Maori kids in New Zealand, in Canada, what they call First Nations, the same pattern. Right. Even Japan, when they conquered Korea in 1910, from 1910 to 1945, the first thing they did was ban Korean names, and then impose Japanese language. Okay? Right. So it became very important to me. Why is this? Because if you bind people, if you can colonize a people's language, you are really also colonize their mind, and the history carried by that language, and all the knowledges carried by that language, and all the history that makes people feel we are a people. You are alienated from it. Right. And then mentally, you are made to attach yourself, root yourself in conqueror's language, and therefore you're more part of the history carried by that language, the culture carried by that, the world outlook carried by that language. So my position has been like this, If you know all the languages of the world and you don't know your mother tongue or your first language or the language of your culture, then that is surely self-enslavement,
Wow.
Yeah, and very important, this is very important. But if you know your mother tongue or your first language, then add all the languages of the world to it. That's empowerment, okay? So the choice we really have is between empowerment and self-alienation, And note how, in the case of African American and Caribbean, even when the African languages were suppressed and so on, they resisted by retaining African rhythms of speech, okay, and add to them English sounds, or creating new languages, okay.